The lights are off and away they go.
Extremely loose. He's managed to hold on and they get.
He missed the pit completely. He's crazy stuff.
Side Freitas is on the grass on the infield floor. He slides through. He tags Richard Eck.
With an extra round looming at Le Mans after Motegi, drivers in the AMGSC have found themselves having to fight as hard as ever for their championship positions. While the prototypes look wrapped up, GT1 and GT3 leave everyone watching and wondering if the worm will once again turn. As the lights flicker on and the engines rumble to life, a daunting night race may create more drama before all is said and done. You're watching round 13 of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sportscar Challenge, and you'll see it all live here on the Global Sim Racing channel. Hi, I'm Joe Peak, and with me in the booth covering the prototype and GT1 classes is Bill Soup Zahn. Keeping us up on the GT3 class is Stephen Parks. Behind the scenes is our director AMGSC, and he's using cameras provided by Dougie Beard. Stephen, Motegi is certainly a unique motorsports venue with its two totally separate tracks. Tell us about the road course today's event takes place on.
Well, Joe, built back in 1997 by Honda as part of the company's effort to bring back the IndyCar series to Japan, and located near Motegi, Japan, just 86 miles from the infamous Fukushima nuclear disaster. Twin Ring gets its name from the facilities having two racetracks, a 1.5-mile oval and a 4.8 kilometer 14-turn road course. Tonight's track configuration is the Grand Prix version of Twin Ring Motegi. That is just under 3 miles in length, and drivers will battle the 14 corners of the road course for 60 minutes. In the real world, Danica Patrick earned her only major racing series win here, finding success on the oval. The best way to get an idea of what this place is like is jumping on board for a lap around Motegi.
Alright, we've got Kevin Brown in the GSRC BMW, so let's do a lap around Motegi. Coming down to turn 1, we'll turn a full 180 degrees around a double apexer. But because the curve is so gentle, it's kind of a medium speed corner. Pass attempts will need you to be well up the inside if you don't want your nose chopped off. If anything, it's a lot more important to square off the exit right so that you get a good launch down this next stretch. See, turn 3 is a bit sharper, so it's a slightly better opportunity to execute an overtake. Now, even by yourself, 4 will be tricky. Just a little lift, and then try your best to carry as much speed as you can onto the third long straightaway in a row. You're certainly not shy of chances to make a pass happen because turn 5 is sharper yet again. With the track switching direction, it's easy to hold left to defend, but just be wary not to outbrake yourself. Your opponent could pull an over-under and take you on the exit. 6 is a flat-out gentle bend that will lead into the 7 and 8 complex. These are two of the trickiest bends on the track. This is a medium-speed S-curve that looks simple enough, but lures you into getting onto the power too quickly with its longer second half. And if you find yourself being hounded, that's a very bad move to make. Turn 9 is a sharp left-hander that, despite the short run, is prone to surprise passes. But it's a decreasing radius, so it has its own set of challenges, without fending off your opponent. Should you find yourself taken down a notch, the good news is that turn 10 can provide easy redemption. It's a long, slow horseshoe hairpin with a good-sized braking zone, so having to go on entry can work. But at the same time, you can square off the second half and get a great launch, creating an opportunity to outdrag someone down to 11. But you're not scot-free from there. 11 has a bit of a downhill braking zone, and even though there's plenty of sand trap to save you if you overshoot it, you'll lose precious time getting back to the track. Now, we head back under the oval into the infield where we hit the final chicane. The jink to the left right before you brake means a stable car during deceleration will be extra valuable. Be careful not to wander into the weeds on the exit. Straighten the car out and ride it home to the start-finish line. You've then finished a lap around Twin Ring Motegi. There's a lap around relatively flat track here on the road course around here at Motegi, but we have the championship coming down to the wire now. Obviously, as we mentioned, one more round has been added on, and the man who gives us the fresh points update, always as fresh as Japanese sushi. Let's go to Bill Zahn.
Very good, Joe. Okay, and we have added on that race, but it's really not going to matter as we go back to France for the one that got canceled earlier in the season. At least in the prototypes, as Robert Tinsey for Talon Motorsports has that thing locked up. He's got 30 pockets points showing there on the overlay. He's got more than that one, so there's no way for Ulmer or Girard to catch them. But for Big Cheese, of course, we're talking about John Ulmer for Autobahn Motorsports West. He's got a few points up on Jason Girard for Itasha Motorsports. That's still in up for battle there for second spot, but Ulmer sitting in the best place. Still looking for his first win is Clan OAD's Alex Simonik, and Daniel Grolty rounds out the overlay. But while there's not so much drama in the prototypes, let's go ahead and look at GT1s where everything is still up for grabs. Wojciech Sviatovic still up on front, but only by 11 points over defending champion Steven McGralty. What's important there? Notice those pocket points for Sviatovic. He's only got one, so if he happens to find some Mitch Fortune, he's not going to get any insurance from there. So McGarvey's still very much in the hunt. Then the other three drivers, Billy Smith, Brandon Postma, and Ryan Huff, round out that overlay. I think Smith is pretty comfortable in third position. Let's go ahead and look at the GT3s where we have more excitement going on there. Yeah, the lead is 29 over Bradley Haley, but Haley is really fast tonight. Laura Costa, of course, never qualifies well, sitting back about third or fourth right now. But what's important again, look at those pocket points. Costa only with 4, so if he happens to find some misfortune, plenty of room for Haley to make up that 29-point gap. And the fact that they are going to race one more time at Le Mans is going to help out Bradley a lot. Sheldon Rosenblum, Dave Hill, and Robert Jackman round out the overlay. Finally, let's go to the team championship. And honestly, I think this is all wrapped up as Talon Motorsports, powered by Tinsey, Postma, and McGuinness, are going to be able to bring that home in the lead. 77 points back is TMC Carbon, McLeish, McGarvey, and Jackman on that one. But within striking distance is Autobahn Motorsports West. That's the one powered by Ulmer, Billy Smith, and then David Tejeda, who's out there. He was doing his qualifying. I'm not sure if he finally got that one in. Autobahn Motorsport East down in fourth, and then Itasha falls off the overlay. So welcome back SRN Motorsports as they rounded out, sitting there in 5th place, 245 points back. Joe?
And Ulmer, unfortunately, not here today to compete, but I say unfortunately, but it seems like it's a bit of a fortunate night for John, as he's going to have a new grandkid soon. So, Mr. Ulmer, congratulations here from GSRC on that. As we ride on board with Tejada here on the last chance qualifying. Only a couple cars out there here today for the last chance qualifying. Sherburne also joining him. If you're wondering what that last chance qualifying is, the drivers all have to qualify within their own class here in the 30 minutes, the 45 minutes, I should say, before the race. They each get their own 15 minutes, but if you can't make your allotted time for your class, this last chance qualifying is a chance for mixed class qualifying for the drivers who have whatever real-world obligations that keep them from coming in a little bit earlier. Now, Stephen, we've got, as we mentioned, something, at least a little bit of a close fight over in the GT3 class that you're covering here tonight, but Costa's been really consistent. The question is, can he stay consistent with his fuel strategy, having to deal with the extra added darkness here tonight and the wrench that throws into things?
Yeah, Costa right now is running second in time for the GT3s, but Haley right up there in front of him, and points are really a premium as we get here in the season. So I mean, he's going to almost have to run the fuel strategy once again here tonight with 60 minutes in this race.
Definitely a little bit of a shorter one. Now, one thing that I have noticed, Bill, on the HPDs, the prototypes, is even though it's been a close fight up at the front between Gerard Tinsey and Ulmer, a name that I'm seeing creeping up in the latter half of the season is Daniel Gralti, currently sitting third. He missed the middle part of the season, and since he's come back, he's been up there.
Yeah, I think so, and sitting third in qualifying right now, fifth on the overlay. Definitely fast. He may be in that second group of guys looking to get up there, and I'm talking about Daniel Gralti and Alex Simonik just trying maybe to get in there with the three big guys on top, the three amigos of Gerard Tinsey and Ulmer. Keep an eye on Gralti. It's a matter of... he's fast. It's a matter of whether he can bring the car home undamaged and bring it home safely.
Certainly. And, you know, we thought that maybe Swirly had the momentum going earlier on in the season, looked like maybe he was going to take away the title because McGarvey really would have to mount a challenge. But, boy, a combination of things has brought that thing back in tight.
Yeah, and what's interesting is Steven hangs in there. McGarvey would really like to finish ahead of Swirly for once and see if he can close the gap the old-fashioned way. If he can knock off a few of those points before we get to Le Mans for the season ender, this thing could be wide open in there. Always a threat, though, and we keep waiting for it, and I think it's going to happen one of these races here before the season's out, and that's Billy Smith to finally get to the form that we remember from way back when GSRC first started to cover him, and he was dominating the Cadillacs. I think today he's sitting third right now in qualifying. He could have something for these guys.
Could be. He's there or thereabouts. It's just either bad luck or his own mistakes. Always seems to set him back. Now, Stephen, I know you haven't driven this track a whole lot, but from sort of, I guess, a third-party observer there, someone who's a little bit fresh to this place with the time that you've had to really familiarize yourself, where's a good place that you would buy a ticket around here to watch out for action on track?
Well, you know, that final corner heading on to the straightaway there, turn 14, I believe it is, that setup there, it's kind of a tricky corner. I did a couple laps before we came on here today, and I tell you what, the darkness definitely adds to the mystery of what's coming next when you don't know the track out there.
Yeah, it does, I'm sure. Thankfully, that front stretch very well lit up, but the rest of it only sparsely lit with lights around it. Kind of an interesting mix. I would almost, Bill, compare it to like if Spa and Daytona had a baby in terms of lighting.
It does get dark on the backside. Yes, nothing's darker than Spa. I guess Sebring can get kind of dark back there sometimes,
that's true.
too. You know, I like corner 5 at this place. Of course, I always joke about this track being laid out like a supermarket where you're going up and down the aisles and it starts off. I like 5 right before you go beneath the underpass there to go back through 130R and start those S's. Surprisingly good passing zone there. Also 1 and 3. I like this layout a lot. I think it puts on some good racing.
I agree. I think it's a little bit of an underrated track as far as the drivers go. Most drivers seem to not really favor this place. But, Bill, one thing that I'm kind of curious to watch out for, even though he's not here today, throughout this season, we've seen Jeff Ooms start to kind of creep into the picture. Do you think maybe he could be up challenging for wins next season?
I do. I sure hope he comes back. so often you have to wet your feet. You got to get a taste of the series before you really start to dominate. Yeah, he has been good. And I say that as we talk about Sviatovic, who just comes in and starts crushing it, as does Costa. But for the most part, it takes a little bit getting used to. And yeah, I would like to see him come back because he has been very impressive in the brief time that we've seen him.
I concur. We've got just about 2 minutes left, and between Sherburne and Tejada, they are interestingly enough still staying down at the bottom of the GT3 order. Haven't been able to topple them. The thing that interests me most, though, is the gaps between first and second, both in the prototypes and GT1. Basically barely a tenth between them in both classes.
Yeah, fortunately, though, what I do like, there's a nice gap between the classes, about 6 seconds in one and a couple there from the 4 or 5 seconds from the leaders. I don't know if traffic is going to be... What I like about this track, there's a lot of corners where it's a right corner followed by a left corner followed by a right corner, where the driver eventually has to come across the track to get into the right racing line. So, man, this could be a little more dangerous than we thought.
And Stephen, we've seen that, especially in this series with multi-class, where, like Bill mentioned, as soon as you have to switch sides, that's what causes miscommunications and things. Can we see some chaos today, potentially?
Yeah, just doing a couple laps around here. There is not really a lot of major passing zones. There's a couple straights here and there, but, you know, there's a lot of corners mixed together, and you could see some chaos when that comes around.
Yeah, two is a right-hander. Then you have the long straight to 3. So eventually, you've got to come across the track. Then when you come through 4, that's a left-hander that sets up 5, which is a right-hander. Eventually, the slower car's got to come across somewhere. It's interesting, especially the closing rate between some of the faster prototypes and the slower GT3s.
A 10-second gap we're seeing between the fastest of the prototypes and the fastest of the GT3 cars. So not the biggest difference in time that we've seen. Still sizable enough that should allow them to catch up to those GT3s relatively quickly.
Bit of a small field too, Joe, and kind of equally spaced between the 3 classes today.
I believe this might be the smallest field we've seen this season, at only 26 cars looking to take the grid today. The clock is now ticking down, and Sherburne is going to come around. I believe he should be able to finish this hot lap. We'll see in just a moment. Yes, he is. So that gives him a little bit of time. We won't quite get to the grid yet with a full pace lap that these guys have to get through. So it's now the penultimate round. We thought that last round would be the penultimate round, as Sherburne has a bit of a moment coming off of that hairpin, but gathers it back together. And we're going back to Le Mans. So that's... What do you think that does to the minds of these drivers, Stephen? Does it change their approach going from the do-or-die race to, I've still got things to worry about later down the line?
I'm starting to wonder if all that practice from earlier in the season is going to come back to them as quick as I think it might.
Could be. They have had experience at Le Mans, so could be a little bit easier. Could be a few guys perfecting things, maybe being more dominant out there. As Sherburne comes in, that completes all of our drivers doing lap time. So let's go through the grid. Jason Gerard sitting on pole, as we mentioned, only a tenth between himself and the other car in the front row of the grid. Robert Tinsley, who sits in second. Daniel Gralti with a nice time, getting himself into third, starting to challenge the driver in fourth, who's usually sitting in that third position, Alex Simonik. Lionel Duprat will start in fifth, and the outside of row 3 will be Mark Wilson. Then in seventh, it's Sean Reese, and rounding out our prototypes, this small field, is Ryan Bird in eighth. Bill?
Okay, in the GT1s, it's Wojciech Sviatovic. Like Joe said, he's got about a tenth of a second speed advantage over Stephen McGarvey, who's going to start in 10th. Then the next 2 drivers are Billy Smith and Leif Peterson, 2 veterans of the series, along with Brandon Postma, Ryan Huff behind them. Then the last 2 cars in the class, David Sockrider and Kevin Santana.
Your GT3 class will be Bradley Haley starting up front for the GT3s, and I believe it was just over 200ths behind him. Laura Costa will start second for the GT3s. Sheldon Rosenbaum will be in row 10 tonight. Dave Hill will join him in row 10. And then we will have
Jim McGinnis.
Jim McGinnis in 21st, and Robert Jackman will join him in row 11. Robert Skilenka will join him will be in row 12 tonight. Mark Kudrowski will join him in row 12, also in 24th. And then David Tejada and Christopher Sherburne will round out the field.
There you can see the cars will be lining up about halfway around the course, I believe, not a full pace lap around here. So, traditional question, Bill, who's your pick?
Okay, this is an easy one with no pressure on Tinsley. I think he's going to get into Girard today. That's going to open it up for Daniel McGralty, but he's not going to know what to do with as a rookie. It's time for the win for Alex Simonek in the prototypes. Then you go to these guys up front. There is no way that Stephen McGarvey can afford to let Swirly finish in front of him. Look for McGarvey to be first to the gingham flag. Who do you like down there in the GT3s?
I'm really liking. I think we're going to see Laura Costa win another one here tonight.
That seems like the safe bet to me as well.
The first row in that GT3 class is just basically a whole, is way ahead of everybody else right now.
Steven's prediction probably smarter than mine, but mine was so much more dramatic.
You'll have the better payoff at
that's right. That's right.
When the bookies collect, right?
Oh yeah.
So, wow, man, that gap between the GT3s, I thought that it wasn't going to be close, but the last second, as I wasn't paying attention, Costa really tightened things up, tighter than even our other two classes. Who would have thought? As the roof pace car idles in front of our field there today, lights already on the cars. Everybody waiting for them to get started for a 60-minute race here today in the penultimate round of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge. Thanks for joining us once again. We thought this was going to be our last one, but we're going to get one more go at this, so definitely come back 1 week from now when we go back to Le Mans. That's going to be an interesting one. Now with the pace car having peeled away down the backstretch, so not even really half a lap, I should say, as they come through turn 11. And then it's into this final chicane that Steven mentioned. Very tricky, rather dark before you come blasting back into the light. Also that pit lane entry, we'll have to talk about that later. That is a tough one as well, which the pace car is going to enter right now, leaving Girard control of the field. Comes around the final quarter, waiting patiently, leaving them stacked up. Now he goes. Gets an incredible jump on Tinsley. Leaves him absolutely in the dust as Daniel Gralty takes a little bit of a look, but Tinsley goes defensive, not interested in trying to lose that spot this early on. He knows he's got to give chase, and they are cleanly through. Let's go to GT1.
Big gap between the prototypes and the GT1s. Sviatovic gets a great jump in second position, working on the outside of McGarvey and Smith. The Smith is going to get into second. McGarvey drops down to third. Peterson and Huff behind them. Steven?
Well, Haley got a great jump off of the corner, and he's going to jump out to a great lead to start over Costa. Kind of did a little bit of a checkup. Didn't get onto the throttle as soon as Costa thought he would.
Very clean start from the field, but most everybody starting to give chase on their leaders, particularly Robert Tinsley, who is already closing up on Girard after that fantastic start off the line. Down into turn 9 they go, and you can see Tinsley closing in under braking. We understand that he has gone for high downforce today, Bill.
That's unusual for him. Maybe he thinks that's gonna come in handy as he slices through the traffic that he's known for doing.
Could be. Right now it's allowing him to stay tight to the back of Girard, but behind them, definitely staying close between Simonek and Gralty, as well as everybody accordions back together into turn 11 to complete the first lap already here for the prototypes.
Other than the long straight between 10 and 11, I guess your straight line speed maybe not as important as you might think.
Yeah, it seems like a bit of a hard call because there is a bunch of long straights, but is there enough twisty bits to make up for that time? Meanwhile, McGarvey has lost second to Billy Smith since the start of this race.
Smith got him right off the jump. McGarvey had a bad start from the outside lane. Smith got in there. And they're beginning to lose touch with Swirly, who's beginning to pull away, up by 1.5 seconds.
Bit wide around 1 and 2 for Leif Peterson, but unfortunately behind him, Ryan Huff was not able to capitalize on that mistake as they now come down to 3. Cones flying, of course, off to the side. We're going to see that a lot today into that corner. Good run from Huff off of 4, though. He takes a little bit of a look, but not a serious move to attempt an overtake down in 5, so they are going to stay in line in 4th and 5th position, respectively.
Guys, looking back at the GT3 class, Haley has pretty much taken off since the start of this race. Costa has yet to kind of recover from that late jump he had on the start, and Rosenbaum's trying to stick with him, but he's struggling to stay up there with those top 2.
So top 3 in our GT3 starting to spread out bit by bit. Dave Hill, of course, at a similar gap between them, about 1.5 seconds, but dropping back from Rosenbaum, who really has been on a great performance, has gotten himself well up in the points.
Having the series of his career. There's that beautifully painted car. Love it. Boy, it's easy to see even here under the dark Japanese sky.
Only person I've ever heard describe a single color car is a beautifully painted car.
Oh man, that's gorgeous. That's all you need. Sometimes less is more.
All right, so Bill is a fan of minimalism, but right now we are a fan of keeping up with all the battles out on track. Speaking of which, our leaders, Tinsey, within half a second, really keeping the pressure onto the New Yorker, Jason Girard.
They got a lot of clear track ahead of them before they get about a half a lap before they get to the tail end of the GT3. So these guys can be able to race for a while.
Curious to see if Girard will be able to get through the traffic in the lead the way that we've seen Tinsey do, or if maybe he fares better being second in line. It'll be interesting to see. Battle going on in 5th in GT3 in the meantime.
Yeah, Robert Jackman had a little bit of a slip-up, went off track. He has since regained that 5th position over Jim, and seems like they have pretty much cleared out that battle, but they are going to stick pretty close to each other at the moment.
McInnes, almost what Sheldon Rosenbaum is now in the past, as he used to just steadily rack up podiums, not really contending for wins.
Former champ, though, Joe. He
absolutely.
Up, yeah.
Oh, and Sean Reese has a problem. Let's see if we can figure out what happened on the replay here. Coming through turn 11, looks like all by himself, the rear of that HPD didn't want to stick to the ground. Just clatters the wall a little bit and continues on racing. Don't see too much damage on the front of that nose.
Last in line in the HPDs. Still plenty of time to vulture spots, as I think attrition will be a factor tonight, even though the field is small.
I'd hate to see that.
If I've learned anything from watching Game of Thrones, I know that the night is dark and full of terror. So.
How about Stephen McGarvey putting the pressure on to Billy Smith, wanting that 2nd place back as he works his way out of turn 3, flashing his lights.
He's been doing that the whole time.
Psychological games. Oh, both of them going wide.
That
Billy
works.
Smith off into the kitty litter. He loses 1 position. He loses 2 positions. Leif Peterson trying to get through, or does he? Comes back as the track switches back to the inside into turn 7.
Leif, flash your lights. It works.
Apparently, but look at what this has done behind them. Ryan Huff is now in this battle, and Brandon Postma as well. Boy, I did not expect that the flashing lights to actually work, if I'm honest. Bill?
Well, I don't know. It could be just a coincidence he happened to lose it. It's not the first time Billy Smith has lost the car this season, and most of the time nobody's flashing their lights at him.
Well, what this does is separate them up at the top, as now Svirdadovic has a gap of about 2 seconds over McGarvey. So unfortunately, the Canadian driver is really going to have to hustle and get back up on the rear spoiler of that Corvette.
We didn't mention it. We do have one pit stop in store here today, so there's plenty of times for things to shake up. With only a 60-minute race, though, I don't think anybody is going to take tires because they have to do fuel and then tires, so they'll probably just run on the ones they have the whole race.
Well, and especially not in the darkness on a grippy track like this, where they won't be sliding a lot. Oh, and a replay on Peterson, did I hear right? Looks like he went a little bit wide in turn 1 while I wasn't looking. Whoop, looking very similar to what we saw down in turn 5 from both McGarvey and Smith.
And guys, big development in the GT3 race right now. Not sure if we're seeing this right, but Laura Costa may be having some electrical issues pulling off the track.
You are seeing it right.
Big points day now for Bradley Haley.
Wow, it's been interesting in both of our GT classes here at the end of the season. Costa couldn't be toppled, it seemed like, for a while, and then bad luck and repeated mistakes have just cost him points after points. We saw the same thing with Svirdadovic. I'm not sure if maybe the fates like to see a good battle in these GT cars and the points or what, but things have tightened up.
All right, but here's the good news about the small size field. I think he'll end up with more points even if he finishes last in class. He's looking to come in about 10th. I think it plays down that far. Costa should be able to get something.
Points are a premium, though, so you want to get as many as you can every race.
Oh, and Ryan Bird in the prototypes, he is off. And unfortunately, this was contact with Lionel Duprat. May have gotten squeezed off track a bit. You'll see on the replay here. Whoop. And unfortunately, he lost his nose, which means he lost his headlights, and I think he took a tow. Gonna watch it one more time from above. Just a bit of a mistake and a good catch, actually, there by Duprat. It has cost Bird.
Just to follow up on my points, I went back to check. I think 10th place pays about 14 points. So even though Costa may finish last, and we're not even sure that's going to happen, he goes one lap down, still should get something.
And guys, the battle for 6th right now in the GTE class, or GT3 class, excuse me, starting to heat up. Robert Slinsky just passed David Tejada to get that 6th spot.
Yeah, Sklenka making progress forward, and that number 25, but looks like he's going to be under threat as Tejada looking back to the inside, but backs out of it. By the time they get to turn 5, a little bit off the apex for Sklenka, could offer another opportunity for David, but he slots into line now as they come through 6 and into 7.
And guys, another development for Laura Costa. He had a power issue, and that's what caused him to drop out of the race. He is back on the track, though.
Oof, disappointment. Something completely out of his control. Now, interesting note about this thing with Tejada, right behind him is Christopher Sherburne. And Steven, there's only 2 points between them in the amateur championship. So this, if either guy is paying attention to that, they have got to be desperate, as we've got our prototype leaders coming through now.
Well, trust me, Joe, if you're an amateur, you're paying attention to that.
Wow, look at Tinsey come through them, though. Ooh, that was a little gutsy.
Low downforce, baby. He knew that car would stick.
High downforce, actually.
That's what I mean, high downforce, yeah.
Oh, but look at him get caught up behind the car of Robert Sklenka, and that cost him gobs of time on Gerard. The gap is now up to 1.5 seconds. Behind them, Daniel Gralty nowhere to be seen. A whole 6.5 from Tinsey's. Oh, and Sean Reese has had more problems. He was off the track in what looks like the final corner. This comes down to what Stephen was talking about earlier on in the broadcast, the difficulty getting it lined up, as we see on the replay him take into the kitty litter. So with that, a few mistakes in our higher classes has meant the tightest battle that we've got on track is still the one between Sklenka, Tejada, and Sherburne.
Yeah, and these guys are having to continue their battle while the prototypes are all trying to get around them.
Oh, Tejada got a bad run coming out of turn 9, now up to the hairpin of 10. Is Sherburne going to stick his nose in there? It's still early in this race. Tejada gives him room at the apex. That could have been a mistake. He wasn't fully alongside him. He is well within the slipstream of that Mercedes. Can Sherburne's Ford do anything with this car ahead? Will he try and outbrake him? Stays in line, not eager enough to try and force a move at this point in the race.
Yeah, I think it's too early on to force something and possibly cause you to maybe lose some of that tire or possibly even wreck your car.
Completing yet another lap, only a quarter of the way through here, with 46 minutes left to go on the clock. Sherburne creeps closer and closer, though. Through 1 and 2 now. Gets a bad exit off of that corner, and with an HPD trying to slice his way through. Ron Wilson is going to separate them just momentarily. Oh, but will he cost some time here to Tejada? Has to stay wide. Manages to come back to the apex in the second part. And once again, Christopher just can't find a place to get the job done.
Yeah, not a whole lot of room on the track, and then you add in the fact that you got all these prototypes trying to get around you, and it's definitely slowing these guys up, but it's making them stay together as a battle, so we'll see how things go with another prototype coming through.
That's the car of Lionel Duprat, who's currently sitting in 6th out there in the prototypes. Meanwhile, let's jump over to second place in the GT1s. Bill?
Yeah, Stephen McGarvey, he had fallen about a second and a half behind Siradovich, but he has been able to run him down, now about 0.6 of a second back, and he's been even closer. So he's a-coming.
The Canadian has the bit between his teeth. He knows he's got to finish ahead of Swirly. Really giving chase here today as we ride on board with our GT1 leader, looking back at his main championship rival.
They are right in a sea of emptiness right now. These guys are going to be able to race for a while. There's nobody really coming up behind them or in front of them.
Sea of Emptiness sounds like a song name. Is that your next song that you're going to write, Bill?
I think I got a hit there.
All right. Oh, look at here we go again. Flashing his lights at Swirly. Playing that distraction game, and I'm not sure. Oh, should we jump away? We've got a battle starting to brew over in the prototypes too. Let's stay on this just for now. No attempt down into turn 11 from McCarvey. I'm keeping half an eye on our prototype leaders to see if Tinsey makes any move, but as we ride on board with Steven, then we come to complete another lap here on the brightly lit front stretch.
Let's try to remember to ask Swirly if he comes in for an interview what that actually does, if he takes that with a smile, the flashing lights, or if it actually is annoying. I think it's all done in kind of a fun, kind of jesting manner.
And Sheldon Rosenbaum had a little bit of contact. Daniel Gralti was trying to go inside in turn 9, and unfortunately the two came door to door. Looks like both are able to continue.
Rosenbaum having a good run, up in second. Bradley Haley's got to be feeling good. Now he doesn't need his competition is way far behind. He's got plenty of space on Rosenbaum. He can just drive around for the next 45 minutes.
So you said 14 points for 10th position? Or
I believe that's what it is, yeah. But Costa's out there. There's still plenty of time for him to get other guys.
and 35, so that would make 20 points going in favor of Haley. That actually would give him the points lead going into the final round.
Yep. Close enough where it really wouldn't matter. Close enough you get to the point where I need to beat you or you need to beat me. That's the way it should be.
Absolutely. Well, as we switch up to this fight for the lead in the prototypes, currently by themselves on track. They got a ways to go before they get to Lauro Costa, who's the next car in line.
Tinsley's done a good job of making up that gap, though. Now he's only about 2 or 3 car lengths back. Remember, traffic split them up a bit.
It's always, it almost feels like at times Tinsley kind of toys with whoever's in the lead.
He's
like
really
a
good.
Cat playing with his food. So as they swing through this chicane one more time, both drivers looking nice and tidy through there. Right on board with Gerard looking back at Tinsley. It's been multiple seasons that these two have been fighting back and forth. So far, every season, it's been Tinsley who's been able to come out on top.
I'm telling you, with Ulmer not here and Tinsley's championship locked up, these two guys are getting together before the checkered flag falls.
You know, Stephen mentioned that the Fukushima incident happened nearby to here. Gerard actually works on nuclear technologies for a living.
There you go.
So, place that maybe he has taken interest in lately, possibly, but right now his only interest is in keeping the Michigander of Tinsley behind him. Sounds like third place in GT1 starting to get a little bit intense. Ryan Huff, we haven't seen a whole lot of him. He is holding that podium position down.
He's got Postma behind him. That's a good little battle here. And Peterson, after his issues, back in the hunt.
Excuse me, Huff is in fourth, not third.
Yeah, behind Smith, McGarvey, and Svidovic.
Just starting to turn into a bit of a slow burn here, Stephen. We're seeing a few tight battles that aren't really seeing a lot of action, but it feels like they could erupt at any moment.
Yeah, right now, Sheldon Rosenbaum and Dave Hill, they're not too far from each other on the track, and one mistake by either of those drivers could turn the race.
Tejada's very close to Sklenka at this point. We're looking at Dave Hill at the moment, and actually Sklenka makes a big mistake coming out of turn 9. Tejada having to go the long way around potentially here. No, Sklenka moves back to the racing line. Outbrakes himself though, down into the hairpin. Tries to gather it together to get a good launch off the corner, and he does it somehow. 2 corners, 2 mistakes, and still Sklenka holds on to that 6th position.
Yeah, it definitely looks like Sklenka is starting to force the issue into the corner, and maybe he's overshooting his braking points, and it's throwing that car to the top side, and that's not going to work out in the long run for him.
One guy cheering on the battle is Lauro Costa, because he needs those guys. He needs some attrition in front of him.
Yeah, I'm not sure that as fast as Costa can be, even with his fuel strategy, 2 laps down is... Oh, and side-by-side action here for the lead in the GT1. Stephen McGarvey and Wojciech Svidovic coming into the final chicane. Usually not a place you want to go side-by-side. Oh! Gets into the back of his competitor. Swirly has to back off. Let's go back and watch how this started. It looks like it was into turn 11. That McGarvey just had a great run. You're going to see sends it up the inside. No defense from Swirly, interestingly.
Well, yeah, he unless he's fighting back on the outside, is kind of he didn't defend the line in, but then they go side by side for a while.
Tries that over under and just misjudges it. Both cars able to continue. I'd be curious if we could get close enough to see if there's damage on either machine.
If I had my choice of being the punter or the punt-E, I'll take being the punt-E. I'd like my damage in the tail rather than on the nose.
Just seeing a tiny bit on the nose of Swirly's Corvette. But the Aston Martin on the rear of that one as we watch him go by. That looks pretty solid.
If you're new to the series, Stephen McGarvey is the defending champion in the GT1s.
It'll be awesome to see whether or not he can repeat and hold off this dynamic rookie who is really shaking things up. And you have to say, Bill, that McGarvey has rallied. He came in, was not looking so good at the start.
Horrible start to the season. He's been behind him the whole time, chipping away at it, and now if he can bring this home in this order, have a real chance at it when we go back to France.
And what I love is that most of the season, it's been a bit like a Vettel and Hamilton situation where they're not just battling in the championship, they're battling on track week after week.
Hey guys, the battle is heating up right now for second place in the GT3 class. Rosenbaum and Hill going at it. Looks like Hill's getting to the back bumper of Rosenbaum every time they go into the corner. So when does he take his shot now?
Wonder if Rosenbaum has gotten any damage that's slowing him down from that side-by-side hit that he had with DePratt earlier on. Or no, excuse me, it was Gralty that he had contact with.
I'm not seeing really any damage on his car.
With it being a side-by-side hit, there's always the risk of suspension damage, and that affecting handling is almost worse than aero damage sometimes. We're almost halfway already here in this 60-minute race at Motegi. If you're just joining us, we're in the penultimate round of the Autobahn Motorcar Group Sports Car Challenge Season 5. Though it's a small field, it has not been short of action as we watch this battle. For second place in GT3, Sheldon Rosenbaum inherited that spot after connection issues due to a power outage for Lauro Costa sent him from second place to last in class.
Yeah, we're definitely seeing Dave Hill get to Rosenbaum in the corners. I'm not sure though if he's got it on the straightaways.
That's the place that really he's going to want him, because it's a lot harder to pass in the corner than it is to pass on the straightaway as they work their way through turn 5 under the oval. One of the unique aspects of this circuit, it goes both inside and outside of the oval circuit here at Twin Ring.
Rosenbaum had a second place earlier this season. I was checking to see if this is his best result. Had a second at Mosport, so he's been running up front. Podium the last 2 times out.
Meanwhile, up at the top of GT1, Swirly's not giving up. He's still holding on with about half a second. Seems like he and McGarvey are pretty even on pace.
Yeah, I think now they're just going to stay together until it's pit window time, which is really any time they want now. Might be dictated by traffic.
And unfortunately, they're coming up on traffic right now. As you can see, those flashing lights that McGarvey is starting to become known for here, this time with good reason, getting Splanka to move out of the way for him. What can Swirly do? He's going to have to go the long way around, and this is going to hold him up significantly. A lot of time lost by that Corvette. Down to the braking for turn 11, can't get by Sherburne, so McGarvey's going to have to wait in line. Now he gets a little bit of a run and squeezes through. Swirly once again catching traffic at awkward moments. This one going a little bit better for him. And knowing how well he's performed earlier on in the season, the last thing Swirly wants is to watch this championship go down the drain.
God. Stop it now.
Oh, the traffic once again, just Sviatovic cannot catch a break. Tejada on the outside of 3 and 4, right where he doesn't want him. Just to mix things up even more, they've got Gerard and Tinsey coming up on them as well.
Yeah, that'll be interesting to watch, because Gerard can really not afford to waste too much time here. Tinsey's right behind him. In fact, yeah, oh, that was a lap car. I got confused in the dark because he went around Tejeda.
Yeah, managed to get around just at the right time, didn't lose too much. Up next is our GT1 lead battle. Neither of these pairs are going to want to give up too much time, so could we see some fireworks? Ooh, and I think they're going to catch him at a critical part of the track in that last chicane. Look at him close. Riding on board with Gerard. How is he going to handle this? He could get held up in this corner, and Tinsey peels off. Oh, and Tinsey misses the entry. He cuts the course. Is this going to give him a slowdown penalty, and will he be able to serve it? Let's watch the replay here, Bill.
That's not the first time somebody's had trouble on pit entry at this track, especially at nighttime.
This tricky chicane through the grass. Well, I'm not sure if you're able to serve that penalty in pit lane or not. Still stationary. As we said, we don't expect anybody to be taking tires. Now he comes out. Is that going to cost him what looked like what could have been a savvy strategic move? Dipping away right when they were about to catch traffic could cost him. Is Gerard now clear with nobody in front? Could duck in and maybe get out with a healthy gap.
Just want to report that Huff and Postma took their stops in GT1. Huff out in front.
We did have our first pit stop for the GT3 class. That was Mark Kondrowski. Goes down pit road. All the other guys staying out.
Unusual for our GT3s. Typically, we see them pitting very late in the race. Most of them trying to run the car dry and then taking a short final stint. Our leader now approaching that pit entry. What is Gerard going to do? Will he respond? Will he try to put in more hot laps? He comes in. And he makes it clean.
Tinsey was in his box 18.3 seconds, 38 cone to cone. We'll see what Gerard can do.
More drivers coming in as Daniel Gralti weaves his way through that tricky pit entry. Simonic elects to stay out, and there's a car spinning with him. Sherburne. There was no contact involved in that. Sherburne just lost the car in the chicane. We're going to see on the replay as he gets a mighty tank slapper here, Steven.
Yeah, he actually looks like he spun on his own. No real contact anywhere on the track. And we talked about it earlier. That's big in the amateur points.
And just to report, Tinsey has jumped Gerard in pit lane. Tinsey is out in front.
Really?
Yep. That 18.3 seconds was a half second faster than Gerard, and that's pretty much the gap right now. Well, it's even 1.5 seconds. So Gerard back to, well, second really. Simonic still hasn't come in yet.
Did he get a slowdown at all?
Not at all. If he did, he hasn't served it.
Wow. Well,
yeah, I was surprised by that too.
I wonder if that's something maybe we need to make iRacing aware of. That seems a bit of an unfair advantage, if you ask me. That's a tough one. Meanwhile, as we watch Gerard, who's been slotted down into second, we understand a few people are asking what anime character is on the cover of that Team Itasha car now. I believe, if I'm seeing it right, and now I'm going to be corrected by someone, I'm sure, but I believe this is a Neon Genesis Evangelion character. I can't remember her name, though, unfortunately. By the way,
GT1 leaders are both in. Go ahead, Joe.
I was going to say, before anybody goes and looks up that anime, I just want to give a heads up that that's a tough one to watch, so be forewarned before you delve into that anime.
Sidorowicz, 1 box ahead of McGarvey right now. They came in simultaneous. Whose pit crew's going to be faster? It looks like it's going to be McGarvey, but not by much. And they exit. They have a GT1 right next to him. They do not. You don't want to get messed up in that one. That is McGuinness, who lets the GT1 guys go by. McGuinness in that GT3.
Yeah, McGuinness just came off pit road, and David Tejada now coming off pit road as well.
So our GT1 leaders staying close together even after pit stops. And we don't have to go to it, but Bill, I think the cork is out of the bottle because Tinsley's stretching away.
Yeah, once he was able to get around, he couldn't do it on the track, but he's rolling now. My goodness, 2 seconds up.
Certainly looking strong in favor of Tinsley, who's already wrapped up the championship, especially with Ulmer not showing today. There we see Bob the Blade working around turn 10, more than halfway through this race. Things could still change, though. It's not over till the checkered flag falls, and that's why we cover it all the way to the end. Meanwhile, Dave Hill continues to get close to Sheldon Rosenbaum.
Yeah, it definitely seems like every time Sheldon Rosenbaum makes a mistake, Dave Hill's right there on his back bumper. But we've also seen in the corners Dave Hill having to check up because he's got nowhere to go to make the pass.
We talked about Rosenbaum having his best finish at Motorsport where he got a second. Well, how about Dave Hill having his best finish at Motorsport where he got the win?
Absolutely. I'm sure he'd love to repeat that, but he's going to have 2 more cars to try and overtake. The car that we're seeing behind them, that is a GT1 car. This is not for class position, even though it is for overall position, as Sock Rider nearly gets into Dave Hill.
Yeah, definitely this mixed class racing going on right now. We saw earlier the prototypes getting involved with these two. Now we're seeing the GT1s trying to get around them.
Sock Rider must have had problems early on that he's having to work by these cars. He's not getting a blue flag, unfortunately, and I hope that Hill is aware that that is not for position within his class as he finally lets him go.
No, I've been watching this battle for the second place in the GT3 class right now, and I've seen Dave Hill do that a couple times. He gets a prototype or a GT1 car on the inside. He tries to pinch him down and get as much of a run as he can down there.
Could cause him some trouble. He's got to be careful as they return to the front stretch. This is where that Aston Martin should have the legs over these GT3s and be able to breeze by with ease. He looks to the inside down in turn 1, but didn't have enough track. Oh, and he goes wide.
With apologies to Sock Rider, this is not one of your faster drivers in the GT1 class. He was, I think, well, he's racing down there last in class right now. Qualified about 6th.
Certainly wreaking a little bit of havoc on these two who are fighting for position.
Well, either wreaking havoc or just being careful. I mean, that's, you know, there we go.
Whoa, he cuts the corner just a little bit to try and make it. Now he's finally ahead.
Oh, now, Billy Smith.
Yeah.
Talking about something. Let's see.
Ooh, it was with Sklanka. Oh, Sklanka was punted off a little bit here. Maybe about 40 seconds ago. Let's see if we can get it on replay into the final chicane. Here we're going to see heading towards turn 11. And then under the bridge, he got caught out, Billy Smith. He's going to be the green Corvette coming up. And he said on the radio he was not expecting him to brake where he did.
Yeah, just really nowhere to go for Billy Smith, and he goes right into Sklanka.
Both cars able to continue on. Sklanka didn't touch the wall at all, but I believe that did lose him a couple positions.
The dialogue went like this. Billy Smith said, "What was that?" And Sklanka said, "You tell me."
Gonna be some words post-race, I'm sure.
Guys, we got 2 more drivers coming down pit road in the GT3 class, Sheldon Rosenbaum and Robert Jackman coming down. That'll give second up to Dave Hill.
All right, Dave Hill with some clear track. Can he do anything with it? 22 minutes left on the clock. This one's going by fast. You can see Hill running that split car. I know we've mentioned in previous broadcasts, but if you're watching this wondering what's going on with that paint scheme, well, Hill was asked by his team to run the team colors, and he really loves the Blue Jays, and they made a compromise.
It's kind of a rough compromise for somebody who's a Blue Jays fan, you know, the Rangers being red and everything.
Talk to our director about that one. Meanwhile, Sklenka does come in now.
Rosenbaum has made his stop in and out quite nicely.
Now, we mentioned that as Haley passes by the pits one more time, we mentioned that Tinsley was stretching away. I'm not sure if traffic has closed it in, but Gerard has chopped half a second off.
Yeah, it has been just pace. I don't think it's traffic involved. Gerard doing a good job of racing with him.
Keeping the pressure on, hoping that maybe traffic or a mistake can offer an opportunity. Gerard knows that he's pretty much lost the championship at this point. All he needs are wins. He's taken a couple this season. Tinsley as well has brought himself to the top step of the podium, mostly in the latter half of the season, and Hill is in.
Yeah, and Bradley Haley also comes into the pits. So the top two in the GT3 class are in the pits. Sheldon Rosenbaum, the next car on the track.
Hill was another one that missed that pit entry just a bit. Cut the chicane slightly.
Rosenbaum's going to have to hustle. He's in 11 if he wants to get Hill.
Hill is still stationary. He's in his pit stall, waiting for Rosenbaum to come through. Now he's going. There you can see.
Just in 14. Yeah, I don't know if he's going to be able to get there.
I think it's going to be closer than you expect. Just hitting the cones now. Hill is able to get his speed up. Here comes Rosenbaum, and he's going to be by.
Got him.
Or is he?
Whoa!
Oh, right around the outside. This could be an opportunity for Hill. He's been trying desperately. He's got Billy Smith close behind him as well, trying to get through in traffic. Oh, ruining the day once again for Hill.
I think we see Hill make some risky moves now as they're within 20 minutes of this race finishing.
And that's a good example. Billy Smith comes out in that battle and says, come on, guys, get out of the way. He does not realize that these guys have been battling for, 40 minutes, nose to tail. And I'm talking about these guys, Rosenbaum and Hill.
Looks like it might continue. Oh, and Gerard has somehow got ahead of Tinsley. I'm going to go back and see if we can figure out what happened there. Did he just catch him on raw pace? Oh, no, it was a mistake of roughly a lap ago where Tinsley, did he actually go off track? No, he did not. He just had a slide, so maybe about 60 to 80 seconds ago. Let's see if we can get the replay. This actually went on for a while. Yeah, there you see the tail end of it. We're going to watch it one more time, and then we got to stay with it because this went on for, gosh, probably about 5 corners or so.
Yeah, Tinsley lost all of his momentum after the spin, then wanted to fight back as hard as he could.
There you see the slide from Tinsley in that Talon Motorsports machine. He knew the jig was up, trying to hold him off as they come down to turn 5 with a great run. You can see, looking around the outside, desperately trying to outbrake him is Gerard, that Atasha Motorsports car, looking to try and get back into the front where he started this race.
Look how long Tinsley tried to fight that off.
Eventually, he finally gets it done, down into 7. Great stuff from both competitors here. Tinsley's still on top of him, though, as they go by Sklenka down towards 11. This is why I said you can't write this off as a car goes off. That's the car of Kevin Santana, who's leading the AM Championship in GT1 and looking set to win that one here today. Meanwhile, GT1 lead also staying pretty tight.
Yeah, it's really annoying because it makes me check back in on it every 5 or 6 seconds. Svidardovich is back there. That's where he has been for the last 10 minutes.
Well,
not making a move. Not flashing his lights, I'll give him that much.
Well, that was McGarvey doing that.
I know, that's what I mean. McGarvey's out in front, so unless he can, like, has to know the switch to do the brake lights.
The tail lights?
Yeah.
Well, the one class right now that doesn't have a battle for the lead, GT3 Bradley Haley up front, and he's got a 17-second lead, almost an 18-second lead right now. He has really pulled away from these guys as Sheldon Rosenbaum and Dave Hill still battle out for that second and third position.
Well, with the things that Haley's had go wrong this season, I have to imagine he wants a 2-minute lead if he can get it.
I do have a battle for you. Mark Kudrowski in 24th place is 15 seconds up on Lauro Costa. So there's some points. I know that seems silly, but that could be a championship there if Costa can get to Kudrowski.
Yeah, Kudrowski's been struggling a little bit out there tonight. He had a spin early on that kind of set him off pace, and he's been slowly trying to, I guess, stay with the field, but he's been unsuccessful in that tonight.
Bradley Haley would be a big Kudrowski fan right now. He wants every point he can get.
I'm sure. Well, if Kudrowski can keep it pointed forward for 16 more minutes, he could hold on to that penultimate spot there in the GT3 class. Meanwhile, we're watching that GT1 battle for the lead. Svidardovich still holding on to the back of McGarvey's Aston Martin. Excuse me, no, McGarvey's running a Corvette.
That's interesting. That's one of the few manufacturer championships we have going on there, too. The Corvette against the Aston Martin.
Of course, the GT3 is running the Ford GT, GT3, and the Mercedes AMG GT3.
I guess we should do Dave Hill out there in that Ford. Has it on a podium spot right now. That's good to see. Fords aren't quite as popular in the GT3s.
Certainly have been lacking this season, especially after the drivers have been calling for them. We could see them in a different class next season with the Ford GT 2017 rendition, as there's talk of bringing GTE cars into the fold. Of course, John Omer, a big Ferrari fan, and has been wanting wanted a Ferrari here in the series. Now that there's the 488 on iRacing, we expect to see that in Season 6. Wonder if he can convince his daughter to name his grandchild Ferrari. Is that too far, Bill?
That's stretching.
Yeah, that might be stretching.
Is Ferrari a boy's name or a girl's name? Guess it works either way, huh?
Yeah. I mean, well, it was the last name originally, so.
Yeah. Boy, the GT1, this, I believe we're looking at Tinsey right now, but this one, I got a hunch it's starting to come here. Svidardovich starting to not lose patience, but maybe just be a little more pesky.
We had a big accident about a minute ago from Kevin Santana. Got a little bit of wheels into the dirt out of turn 10, set it around and slammed it into the alternate pit wall. Oh, well, looks like maybe it wasn't as far back as I thought it was. Oh, yeah, no, this is before it. Oh, no, this is a different incident, interestingly.
Oh. Busy night.
Looks like we're not going to be able to get it, but he did take a tow. He's in the pits. I think maybe his day is over. Flying Spaghetti Monster Machine will not fly for the rest of today's race. Svrdadovic getting closer and closer to McGarvey. Gets a little bit of a run down into turn 5. He peeks his nose in. Could he outbrake him? He does get a nose ahead down to the apex. Can McGarvey come back at him? Tries to swing wide. Gets his wheels off into the dirt. Give P1 back to Swirly. And with traffic in the mix as well, this is the car of Mark Wilson flashing the headlights. McGarvey not happy with the timing of this HPD. Through turn 9 they go. Oh, almost gets into Swirly though. Has to take to off track.
That let McGarvey pick up a couple of car lengths there. He's right on him now.
It is a dogfight up at the top of the GT1. This is for the championship. Swirly, though he leads in the points, wants to try and extend that to give himself an easier time at Le Mans. McGarvey wants to retain his crown, wants to try and close the gap. Right on board with Wilson, the HPD that was trying to sneak by. That's for position behind him, actually. We can't quite see his mirrors, but Duprat has rocked up behind him, and that's why we're seeing Wilson really wanting to get in the midst of this battle, despite being farther down, and it looks like he's going to lose it as around the outside, Duprat uses a brilliant move in the traffic. And here comes Wilson right back at him, going side by side. This is exactly what our GT1 leaders don't want, as cars fighting for position as they try to get by them. Oof. Taking alternate lines, raising the hairs of first and second place in the GT1. Still, Wilson manages to stay ahead of Duprat for that 5th spot. And this is where Wilson got shoved off track earlier. Tries to stick his nose in. He's given a little bit of room. This is hurting, of course, the pace of McGarvey as he tries to give him a chance to get by. Oh, looking to the inside once again, but he chops back to the late apex. McGarvey has no patience for what's going on behind him right now.
I wonder, I think, you know, Wilson's a veteran. He knows what's going on in front here, so I think he's trying to be as careful as he can.
Normally, these HPDs should have no difficulty in getting by these GT1s either, so that's what's even more nerve-wracking, I'm sure, for them.
Here we go. Let's go now. Boy, he's only gonna get one. Look at the line.
Now he's gonna get 2, but look at the wide line that caused Swirly to have to take. Here comes McGarvey. He's got the run, but he's on the wrong side of the track. Can he outbrake him and swing it around 3? He's going to try for it. He's got the momentum. He tries to keep it on track, but he's got a lift, and Swirly brings it back. It's going to switch back to the inside in favor of McGarvey. Just a nose ahead for Swirly down into turn 5. Who's going to be braver on the brakes? Smoke coming from the tires of Vocek. Still he holds on, dips his wheels into the dirt. Tries to keep it inside as it switches back into turn 7. A defensive line from McGarvey holds him off. Switches around. Has to finally give it up as they get into the left-right section of 7 and 8. Oh, and look at this. Traffic is not over because Duprat wants through. He's losing time on Wilson, who he was fighting before. Side by side into the corner, Duprat using the extra downforce to try and get himself through. Unfortunately for Vocek, that costs him the line.
Yeah, Vocek had no corner exit on that one, so he's lost a ton of time now. The good news for Svrdadovic is that McGarvey still has to let Duprat by.
And guys, an update on the GT3 class real quick. Bradley Haley, who's up front, he's got to be celebrating right now because Laura Costa had to take a pit stop. So that drops him another 30 seconds back from Mark Trudrowski late in this race.
think it's going to take a mistake from Kudrowski for Costa to be able to take that. Meanwhile, battle between Rosenbaum and Hill.
Yeah, we've been watching this all race long, these two battling it out. And as we come near the end of the race, we're seeing Dave Hill take some chances, and we're seeing Rosenbaum go high on the exit. Not enough, though, for Dave Hill.
Putting the pressure on. Hill wants onto that podium. He's had a taste of it a few times. Rosenbaum's had a taste of it. Rosenbaum very much wants to keep himself in the hunt. In fact, I think those two are battling for points positions in the championship, if I'm not mistaken. Yes, indeed, only less than 20 points between Rosenbaum and Hill for third in the championship. So this is a direct fight as Rosenbaum tries to hold him off, but he goes a little bit wide, over under for Hill, and he gets the spot.
Yeah, Hill kind of had the crossover from behind, went high in the entry on Rosenbaum and crossed it over, went low on the exit, able to get out in front of him.
We've seen Sheldon do a lot of quiet races to get himself onto the podium. What's he going to do now that he has to handle some door-to-door action? He holds on to the back of Hill, so David not able to stretch away here initially. Now, we understand that Leif Peterson had a spin in the last chicane. I'm not sure how long ago that was, though.
I can report that Kudrowski, we just talked about Costa coming in. Kudrowski is in the pits right now, so Costa does get that spot.
Yeah, I just saw that. He is sitting in the pits for a while, so I'm not sure what happened to Kudrowski out there.
Oh, it was Kudrowski who had the spin that we had seen just in the corner of the screen.
There you go.
He didn't hit anything, though.
I'm going to blame that one on Soup.
Well, happiness for Laurel Costa. For Bradley Haley, not what he wants.
It's hard to imagine that Mark Kudrowski's spin in the dying stages of Motegi could be the determining factor in the championship, but that's how it is.
We'll have to see once we get to Le Mans. Going to be a different race there. They ran earlier, but technical problems caused them to have to cancel it as a championship points race. Wound up just being for fun. It was 2.4 hours, though. This one, coming up, is going to be 90 minutes, so strategy will be different.
And standard points, I believe. No double points on that one.
Exactly. Haven't checked in on Gerard and Tinsley in a while. That has come down to about half a second between them. Tinsley's trying his hardest. He's got 5 more minutes, so he's running out of laps. He's going to have to get aggressive here soon.
We look at those. We have not talked much about Daniel Gralti. He's had a very quiet third place. He's got 25 seconds behind Tinsley, 25 seconds ahead of Simonik. So, I mean, talk about being by yourself. Simonik in fourth.
There we see Gralti in that final podium spot. And again, this battle for the lead has no bearing on the championship order between Tinsley and Gerard. Tinsley has wrapped it up. This is all for pride. Right on board, just over the shoulder of Tinsley. Ooh, he's trying hard. He wants it. Meanwhile, Tejada, has something happened to him here? Looks like a self-spin coming up to turn 9. The GT3 driver who is currently leading the AM Championship. You can see little wheels into the dirt. Had to stay out of it. However, unfortunately, actually, championship leader, I say that, but Sherburne got by in that half spin. That could be a point swing for the AM Championship and the GT3 cars. There's 4.5 seconds between them. I don't think Tejada's got enough time to try to make that spot back.
Yeah, it looked like Tejada was just going high to let the prototype, I believe, go by and make the pass. And unfortunately, your nice one turn, and it may end your race and maybe lose you a championship.
Boys, you're looking at Tinsley. He's a-coming.
We believe it'll be 2 to go that time by there at the line. I'm keeping half an eye on this, half an eye on our battle for second in the GT3s. Both of them incredibly close. Tinsley at this point just hounding Gerard. Coming up on traffic, could this come into effect? He sneaks to the inside of Billy Smith. And Tinsley tries to follow him through as Smith sees what's going on. And that's what you were talking about, Bill. Awareness of the situation. Billy Smith knew that was a fight for P1. Lots and lots of traffic ahead of our prototype leaders. Costa gets out of the way. Tejada is up next. Remember, he's trying to make up ground after his spin, but dutifully moves aside. And those flashing lights return. Gerard this time, the one getting on the button, letting Sean Reese know he's got to move.
Hey guys, I'm watching this GT3 battle for second right now, and it looks like Dave Hill is starting to switch up his strategy, going defensive now. But we're seeing him almost lose control of that car a couple times. He hit the grass one moment on the front stretch, almost lost control, able to keep it right in front of Sheldon Rosenbaum. So definitely looks like he's switched from offensive to defensive now as we come near the end of this race.
Rosenbaum was held up as the prototype leaders get the white flag and zoom on by in turns 1 and 2. This is it. Do or die time for Tinsley. They come through turns 3 and 4. Tinsley's holding on to the back. It's only 4 tenths between them as they head towards turn 5. He's going to have to be closer than that if he wants to send one down the inside. He closes up under braking. Looking very strong with that high downforce helping him in the slower zones. Now through the S's, 7 and 8. More traffic up ahead of them. This time it's Swirly. Second place in their GT1s. He's dropped back from McGarvey. He moves out of the way. Look at that, closing right up on the rear spoiler. Could we see a last gasp dive into the final couple corners? They've got McGarvey up ahead of them. I'm not sure that they'll catch him before the end. He's flashing his lights anyways. I don't think McGarvey's willing to give up that much time knowing that Swirly is right back there. Gerard's got the gap. Comes down to brake for turn 11. Now into the final chicane. He does not want to get held up here. This could be a critical moment. Can Tinsley take advantage? Is he going to get slowed up? No, it looks like it's going to go to Gerard here at Motegi. GT3 going to be the next one across the line. Bradley Haley. We wondered if he'd have it all his own way, if Lauro Costa would challenge him once again with strategy. Well, it all didn't matter in the end as Bradley Haley had a little bit of luck on his side with Lauro Costa getting disconnected. He comes down to turn 11. Haley's Comet has been trying his hardest to take this championship home in only his second season here in AMGSC. This is going to give him the championship lead. As he crosses the line, Haley wins here in Japan.
And Joe, and McGarvey has, I believe, has won this, even though he hasn't.
Yeah.
Because they were separated by the prototypes, right?
And that's another reason why he did not want to let them by. Indeed, Stephen McGarvey, the luck of multi-class helping him out. Swirly kept him honest. Stephen McGarvey, though, says, I'm the champion this season. I want to hold on to that title as he comes around turn 10. The last car to finish here today with him just being ahead of Gerard at the line. Down into turn 11. This is probably the biggest relief he's had all race long. Nobody around him. As he comes back under the oval through the final chicane, Stephen McGarvey is your winner in the GT1 class, keeping the fight alive. With that, we are going to go to a quick break here on the Global Sim Racing channel. We'll be back with the unofficial results as well as driver interviews, and on screen we're going to have all the upcoming races here on GSRC. Well, if you hoped that we'd get a little bit more action in the championship due to the extra round, you have been rewarded. Jason Gerard, even though he can't overcome Robert Tinsley in the points championship, did give us a good race here today, fought hard, and took home the win by only 7/10 over Robert Tinsley, Daniel Gralti. Barely saw him, but man, what a great run for him. Up into third seems to be giving Alex Simonik something to think about next season, and even more people for him to have to overcome to get his first win. Simonik, of course, finishes in fourth. Mark Wilson manages to come home in fifth, with Lionel Duprat behind him in sixth, and a rough day for Sean Reese, a lap down from our leader. Finishes seventh overall and last of our HPDs that sees the checkered flag. Bill?
Steve McGarvey gets his fifth win of the season. Swerledovich right behind him. That gap is going to be about 9 points, we're estimating, when it's all said and done for the final race in France. Billy Smith, Brian Huff, and Brandon Postman round out your top five. Leif Peterson behind them. David Sockrider is the final, really the guy running up front in the GT1. So let's go to Stephen for the GT3 winner.
Well, Bradley Haley kind of walked away with this one after the disconnect by Laura Costa, but he starts up front, finishes up front, and really had no competition around him for most of the race here tonight. The big battle of the day in the GT3 class, that was for P2. That is between Dave Hill, who would come out on top. Sheldon Rosenbaum would be battling him most of the night in second, but would come out in third. Robert Jackman would finish fourth, and Jim McLennan would round out your top five. Christopher Sherburne and David Tejada would battle it out for a lot of the night as well. They'll finish sixth and seventh. Robert Skalinski, Laura Costa, and Mark Kudrowski will round out your field in the GT3 class.
With that, we have our overall winner here to talk to us, Jason Gerard. And Jason, even though you aren't able to take the championship, is it any consolation that you were able to beat Robert in a head-to-head fight today?
My Japanese people have been avenged, Joe P. Yes.
Speaking of, go ahead.
No, it was a really tough race. Robert pushed me for everything he had, and I don't know how I stayed in front. If I'm honest with you, I was running about 100% for the entire race. I think I nearly crashed it a couple times, but somehow, credit to Robert, he's been pretty much the faster of the two drivers all season long, and certainly deserves a championship. I'll take the wins where I can get them, especially when they're here in Japan.
That's a fair point. I know you're a huge fan of Japanese culture. Speaking of which, the chat was wanting to know, and I figured I might as well confirm. I'm pretty sure about this. Is that Asuka Langley on the cover of your car from Neon Genesis Evangelion?
Yes. Joe.
I've watched the series. I already warned our viewers to be careful if they get into that one, though.
Yes, it's not for the newbies, no, definitely.
Well, back to the racing, though. Talk about that moment where Bob made the mistake into three. What went through your mind? Was that the do-or-die moment for you?
Yeah, I knew after I lost all that time in the pits that I was going to need some help. I mean, I felt like I was maybe a 10th faster here, 10th faster there, but I just couldn't quite close the gap. I knew I needed either traffic or something to catch back up with them again. And if I'm honest with you, it was either traffic or a mistake. Thankfully, it was a mistake, and I saw it, and I knew right then and there that I had at least the opportunity to make the pass.
Well, it put on some great excitement. We missed it the first time around, but we got a great replay of that side-by-side action. We love seeing you two go head-to-head. Again, congratulations on the win. And will we see it back for the makeup race in Le Mans?
I believe so. That's next week, right?
Correct. 1 week from now.
Yep, I should be there.
All right. That was Jason Gerard, our winner here today, and should, I believe, take second in the championship after that win. Next up, we have second place in the GT1s. That's Wojciech Sviridovich to talk to Bill about the one that slipped away from him.
Wojciech, it's never good to finish second, but you had to have fun. You were battling the whole time. Let's see. Swirly, you got a copy? Let's try this one more time. Maybe we'll bring in our GT. Do we have somebody? Maybe we'll bring in a...
we've got our winner in GT3. Yeah, we'll wait for Swirly to see if we can get his mic corrected. But in the meantime, Haley's Comet managed to come home with the win to try to close things in on Costa, and Steven's going to talk to him.
Yeah, we're here with Bradley Haley, and we see you run the fastest time in practice, the fastest time in qualifying in the GT3 class, and you'd be right there with Laura Costa at from in practice and in qualifying. Unfortunately, we would see Costa's night take a different turn. But talk to us through your approach from the start of the race tonight to the moment you realized Costa was having some issues.
Well, knowing Lauro, I thought maybe he had some wise plan that he was trying to put in place for his pitch strategy, because he is the king at that. And then when I saw it pop up that he had a power issue, that was unfortunate. I'll take it, but I probably would have preferred to have him behind me so I could have stayed a little bit more focused, because that was quite difficult.
Yeah, talking about being focused, you were about 20 seconds ahead at one point, I do believe. Riding all by yourself, what do you do to kind of keep that focus in check and, keep a reminder to hit all your points and not make a mistake?
Yeah, I kept having flashbacks to Monza when I had a 10-second lead. I kept trying to push that at the back of my head, but just go as fast as I was going the lap previous, try and continue to just go fast, because as soon as I start to try and go slow, something bad happens.
Now, next week, you guys do have you guys return to Le Mans after that issue you guys had last time you ran there. What's kind of your approach into this? You practiced for a while and then you had it canceled, or you had it rescheduled. So do you go back to all that practice that you had and you're able to pick that up real quick, or do you have to kind of go back and relearn what you did?
Well, if I recall, I was fast, but Lauro had the extra lap, so he did way better at conserving and came out of the pit stop with a pretty sizable lead. So the whole lift and coast theory needs to be practiced. So we'll see. It'll be fun. It'll come down to the end, and hopefully I can pick up some of Laurel's cues in the pitch strategy and make it a fight.
Well, it should be a pretty good fight next week, as you guys are inching even closer to each other in that points race. But anybody you'd like to give a shout out to tonight?
Congratulate to Tinsley for winning it. I guess he actually lock up the championship?
Yes, he did, actually.
He did. Okay, yeah. Congrats to him. I saw Jason won, so good on him. And my family, I can hear my 2-year-old screaming in the other room, so I need to try and save the day, at least redeem myself for the last hour and a half.
All right, we'll take that celebration and hopefully make that kid happy, and we'll hopefully see you next week.
All right, thanks, guys.
That was our winner in the GT3s, Bradley Haley. It looks like we do have the mic issues sorted out for Wojciech Sredovic, and Bill's talking to him now.
Okay, let's try this again. Boy, you finished second, but it had to be one of the most fun races that you've had all season.
Yes, definitely, yeah. Looks like we quite often have fun with Steven recently, same as Spa. That was a month ago, I think. And here again, unfortunately, I didn't manage to win, but yeah, still, like you said, that was all about fun.
He beat you out of the pits, and then you had to fight. Your guys goes tooth and nail at it there, and then you got back in front, I believe, like I read my notes right, and then the lap traffic is what got you, or the faster when the prototypes went through.
Yeah, it was partly my mistake as well. I've seen that prototype coming in, but I should have held my line a bit better. I just went into brakes a little bit too late, and I just wasn't able to put the throttle on the exit of that corner. That's how Steven managed to get side by side.
Side by side is an understatement. You were side by side for half a lap until you guys finally got that figured out.
That's right, yeah. Unfortunately, on the tight right-hander, I just went a little bit too wide. There was no grip on the outside, and yeah, that he managed to clear me before the next corner.
Okay, we were doing a little bit of the math here, and the best that we can figure out, you're still going to be in front, but the gap's going to be about maybe 8 or 9 points. Enough that I think if you finish right behind Steven, you'll probably be okay, but if there's much cushion between you and him, you're going to get into trouble. What would be your thought process going in next week? Hopefully, can you make next week the Le Mans makeup?
Yeah, I will be able to make
Good.
it, most likely. Nothing stopping me now. Yeah, I'm still ahead. But yeah, any bad results means I would have to take it because I use my drop weeks
Right.
100% at this moment. A bit of unplanned holidays 2 weeks ago, and yeah, the week prior to that there was 2 weeks prior to that unfortunate disconnection. So yeah, I used my drop weeks unfortunately, but yeah, still should be able. If nothing goes wrong, I should be able to hold the Women's Championship.
Yeah, well, I wish both you and Steven the best, but hopefully what I'm hoping for, if you guys can put on a show like you did tonight over in France, the fans will be happy. So congratulations on a great race tonight.
Cheers, thank you very much, and see you next week.
Wojciech Sirodovic, Joe. Whose name we eventually got right this season, and now we can say it pretty easily. The end, this was a fun one to call. I think we all liked watching the battles that we had out on track. For a circuit that doesn't seem to get a lot of love from iRacing, it keeps producing a fair bit of action. I feel like we need to turn some opinions around on this one. In the meantime, we're going to close things up. Of course, thanks to the Autobahn Motorcar Group for being the official sponsor of this league, and thanks to John Ulmer for organizing it. Thanks to the companies that provide the software and hardware for our broadcast here listed on your screen. Additional thanks to Eric Ekholm and Casey Lalonde who provide the music for our broadcast. Their contacts can be found listed here as well. Thanks to the team today, Bill, Stephen, Amjad, and Dougie. If you'd like to find out more about GSRC, including upcoming races, you can find it at globalsimracingchannel.com, or you can check out our social media on Twitter at GSR Channel, or we're on Facebook at /GlobalSimRacingChannel. The next race, we keep mentioning it, it's going to be the last one for sure this time. Le Mans, Monday, August 19th, or 14th, excuse me. I had written down it wrong. I took a guess and I was wrong. 9:15 p.m. Eastern. That a week from now that we'll be covering that one. We also have upcoming races for other series listed on the screen, so check those out and mark them down on your calendar. However, until next time, race clean, race hard, and we'll see you on the track.